There was a time when the name Mel Gibson carried an almost mythic weight in Hollywood, spoken with admiration, excitement, and a sense of awe reserved for figures who seemed to transcend ordinary stardom. He was not merely an actor appearing in successful films. He embodied intensity, emotional fire, and a raw physicality that audiences felt in their bones. When viewers watched him charge into battle in Braveheart or portray spiritual suffering in The Passion of the Christ, they were not simply observing performances, but witnessing a man who appeared to give every part of himself to the screen. For many years, Mel Gibson stood as one of the most bankable and respected figures in the industry, admired for his charisma, creative courage, and willingness to take risks that others avoided. Fame did not arrive gradually for him. It came like a thunderclap, reshaping his life long before he had the chance to fully understand its cost. Early life and the foundations of intensity. Born in 1956 in Peekskill, New York, Mel Gibson grew up as one of 11 children in a deeply religious family, an environment that emphasized discipline, faith, and a strong moral framework. When his family relocated to Australia during his youth, he found himself straddling two worlds, American by birth, yet shaped profoundly by Australian culture. This dual identity later became part of his on-screen edge, lending his performances a quality that felt both familiar and unpredictable. Acting was not initially part of a carefully planned future, but once he discovered it, it became an outlet for emotions that were difficult to express elsewhere. Even early in life, those close to him noticed a seriousness beneath his charm, a tendency toward introspection that could easily turn inward. That emotional depth would later become one of his greatest strengths, while also planting the seeds of struggles that would surface under the pressure of extraordinary fame. Discovering acting as emotional expression. Gibson's introduction to acting was less about ambition and more about survival, a way to channel feelings that did not easily find words. In drama school, he learned how to translate inner turmoil into movement, silence, and intensity, discovering that performance could be both a release and a form of control. His natural presence quickly stood out, not because it was polished, but because it felt real. There was a sense that he carried something unresolved inside him, and audiences instinctively responded to that authenticity. Acting allowed him to externalize what he often kept hidden, turning personal emotion into shared experience. It was this quality, more than technical perfection, that would define his career and draw people toward his work. Mad Max and the Birth of a Star. Gibson's breakout role in Mad Max transformed him almost overnight from an unknown actor into an international phenomenon, despite the film's modest budget and gritty tone. His portrayal of a hardened, emotionally fractured anti-hero resonated deeply with audiences who sensed something genuine beneath the violence and despair. The character's quiet rage and haunted presence felt lived in rather than manufactured, marking Gibson as an actor capable of conveying pain without excessive dialogue. With Mad Max, he gained more than recognition. He gained an identity in the public imagination, one that linked him with raw power and emotional volatility. That early success opened doors to Hollywood, but it also created expectations that would follow him relentlessly for decades. Hollywood's embrace and growing stardom. Throughout the 1980s and early 1990s, Mel Gibson became one of the most sought-after actors in the world, moving seamlessly between genres and proving a rare versatility. Films such as Gallipoli, The Year of Living Dangerously, and the Lethal Weapon series showcased his ability to balance vulnerability with strength, humor with darkness. Audiences trusted him, believing in the emotional truth of every role he played. Off-screen, he appeared to live a grounded life as a devoted husband, a father, and a man guided by faith, reinforcing the belief that he remained stable despite immense success. Few stopped to consider whether maintaining that image carried a cost he was quietly paying: the burden of being the leading man. As his fame grew, so did the pressure to embody a certain ideal of masculinity and heroism, both on screen and off. Gibson was often cast as the man who endured, who suffered silently, who pushed through pain without complaint. While this image fueled his success, it also left little room for vulnerability in his personal life. The expectation that he remained strong at all times made it difficult to acknowledge exhaustion, fear, or emotional imbalance. Over time, the line between performance and reality began to blur, and the role of the indestructible hero became a mask he wore even when it no longer fit. Braveheart and The Weight of Vision. When Gibson chose to direct and star in Braveheart, many in the industry doubted the project, questioning whether such ambition could succeed. His conviction, however, carried the film forward, and its success was nothing short of monumental. Winning multiple Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, the film cemented Gibson's reputation as not just a leading man, but a filmmaker with a powerful singular vision. Yet the triumph came with a personal cost, as the film's themes of sacrifice, loss, and moral struggle mirrored elements of his own inner life. With increased creative power came increased isolation, and the distance between public triumph and private strain quietly widened. Seeking independence and creative control following Braveheart, Gibson sought greater autonomy by founding Icon Productions, allowing him to pursue projects driven by passion rather than studio expectations. This independence gave him creative freedom, but also removed the protective structure that studios often provide. Decisions became more personal, stakes more emotional, and criticism more deeply felt. While this freedom allowed him to explore meaningful themes, it also placed him squarely at the center of every controversy that followed. The safety net was gone, and the weight of responsibility rested entirely on his shoulders. Faith, conviction, and polarizing work. One of the most defining moments of Gibson's career came with The Passion of the Christ, a deeply personal project rooted in his faith. The film achieved enormous financial success and moved many viewers, but it also sparked intense global debate and division. Gibson found himself at the center of cultural conversations far larger than cinema, admired by some for his conviction and criticized by others for his intensity. What remained largely unseen was the emotional toll of standing alone in such a charged environment. The experience reinforced his image as a polarizing figure while quietly amplifying the pressure he carried internally. Cracks beneath the surface. As Gibson entered middle age, subtle changes became visible to those around him. Periods of withdrawal, heightened sensitivity, and moments of visible strain suggested that the balance he once maintained was slipping. Long-standing struggles with alcohol, combined with unresolved emotional pain, became harder to manage under constant scrutiny. Though he continued to work, there was a growing sense that the effort required to remain composed was becoming unsustainable. The world still saw the warrior, but behind the armor was a man struggling to hold himself together. The turning point that changed everything. In 2006, a late-night incident became a defining moment that reshaped Gibson's public image almost overnight. What might once have been a private failing unfolded in full view of the public, triggering widespread backlash and disappointment. Studios distanced themselves, opportunities vanished, and admiration quickly gave way to criticism. Gibson later acknowledged his struggles with addiction and sought help, but the damage to his reputation was undeniable. For the first time, audiences were forced to reconcile the heroic image with a deeply flawed reality, facing public judgment. The years that followed were marked by intense scrutiny and painful self-examination. Media narratives often focused on his lowest moments, leaving little room for nuance or growth. Gibson retreated from the spotlight, confronting personal issues that had been ignored for years. Rehabilitation, therapy, and accountability became daily necessities rather than public gestures. The loss of trust, both professionally and personally, forced him to confront who he was without the armor of fame. The slow work of accountability. There was no dramatic comeback or instant forgiveness, only slow, difficult work carried out largely away from public view. Gibson focused on sobriety, self-discipline, and rebuilding personal relationships rather than chasing approval. He understood that redemption, if it came at all, would not arrive through words, but through consistent action. The process was humbling, stripping away illusions of invincibility and forcing him to accept the lasting consequences of his choices. Continuing to work in the shadows, despite diminished visibility, Gibson never fully disappeared from filmmaking. He accepted smaller roles, collaborated quietly, and earned trust through reliability rather than reputation. These years were defined less by ambition and more by survival, as he learned to exist without the constant validation that once defined his life. The work mattered, but not in the way it once had. It became a means of expression rather than proof of worth. Hacksaw Ridge and a cautious return. In 2016, Gibson returned to directing with Hacksaw Ridge, a film centered on faith, courage, and moral conviction. Its critical success surprised many and served as a reminder of his undeniable talent behind the camera. The film's recognition marked a cautious turning point, not a full restoration of status, but an acknowledgement that artistic ability and personal failure can coexist. The response was respectful rather than celebratory, reflecting an industry still grappling with how to reconcile his past with his present. Living with an unfinished legacy today, Mel Gibson exists in a space defined neither by total rejection nor complete acceptance. He continues to work selectively, mentor younger filmmakers, and spend time with his family, choosing a quieter life removed from relentless public attention. Those who know him describe a man shaped by experience, more reflective, less driven by ego, and deeply aware of the harm caused by his past actions. His faith remains central, now tempered by humility rather than certainty, aging and the shift toward reflection. At 70, Gibson no longer commands Hollywood as he once did, and perhaps he no longer desires to. The relentless pace of fame has given way to introspection, and the roles he accepts reflect that change. There is a stillness in his later years, marked by regret, but also resilience. He understands that some losses cannot be undone, that certain chapters remain permanently altered, yet he continues forward without bitterness. Lessons embedded in the journey, Mel Gibson's life is neither a simple downfall nor a clean redemption story. It is a deeply human narrative shaped by talent, struggle, accountability, and endurance. His journey challenges the belief that greatness guarantees wisdom or that failure defines a person forever. It reveals how unresolved pain can quietly grow beneath success, and how public judgment often overshadows personal complexity. A man, not a myth. Beyond the headlines and history, Mel Gibson remains what he has always been beneath the fame. A man capable of brilliance and error, conviction and contradiction. His story resonates because it reflects something universal, the struggle to live with one's past while still believing in the possibility of meaning. Whether remembered as a cinematic icon, a controversial figure, or a cautionary tale, his life reminds us that behind every legend stands a human being still searching for peace.